All right, so we just got back from Magnet's Summit Conference in Paris, and we had an incredible time. But the way that people got excited about Gato going to this Bad Bunny concert, and the way that this came up in conversation repeatedly, but Rachel specifically, just it blew my mind because she got so no. Well, I thought it was Rachel. No, but it was Aaron. It was
No, it was
Aaron.
Aaron.
It was
It was
Aaron.
Aaron.
It was Aaron. Aaron got so excited about Gato going to the Bad Bunny concert that it was just like nonstop conversation. Gato, tell us about this Bad Bunny concert.
Listen, with reason. Okay, I know that this concert had an incredible economic impact on Puerto Rico, but it had a negative economic impact on my wallet because when I tell you the amount of money that I spent to go see this man in Puerto Rico with 5 of my best friends, but it was all worth it, let me tell you. Brand partnerships, I felt like I was an influencer. Everywhere I looked, it was a little activation, it was a little free treat, it was an experience. I got free things I like free swag from brands. I was able to get perks because I was a T-Mobile member. Finally, like my expensive phone bill was worth it. I was able to get into the concert a little earlier because I had a specific Visa card. I'm telling you, it was from the second that I stepped in Puerto Rico and I was greeted with, I kid you not, a digital Bad Bunny mural till the second that I left, I felt like I was an influencer myself. So I think we could definitely talk about how Bad Bunny did partnerships right and how brands can learn from this and take it forward.
I like to, probably like most of you, travel listening to podcasts. We were talking about that last time. And I was gearing up for in-flight. I was actually at American Airlines when I noticed that for the in-flight entertainment, they had partnered with the creator Rob Has a Podcast to really promote their new collection of reality TV content. And it really got me thinking how far brands have really come from brand partnerships, and how that space maybe has stayed the same, has evolved. So today I really just want to talk about how that collaboration has evolved. What are some undeniable truths that brands should be keeping in mind as you look to do brand collaborations, from nano influencers to mega celebrities? And what is that recipe for success that we're seeing out today, right? And the biggest, I think, example recently is probably with Bad Bunny. And I know our very own Carolina was out in Puerto Rico. Tell me what's going on. How was that experience? Because I had complete FOMO, and was able to catch the live stream, but I'm sure it wasn't the same.
Before he announced that there was one more, which was the one that he live streamed on Amazon. I was that last night. So when I was there, I noticed a few things that really, really impressed me when it came to the brand partnership side of things. The first one being that even before you went into the Choli, which is the arena where the concert was at, there was like a block party of brands. I'm talking Wendy's, L'Oreal, Adidas, T-Mobile, of like, how can we engage people here before they actually get inside?
It's like
Once
Sponsored Village.
it was, I'm telling you, I felt like an influencer. I wasn't because I had to pay for everything, but I felt like an influencer. So we were in line, and again, it's everybody wanted to get in at the same time, and there were 2 exclusive lines. One was for Visa and one was for T-Mobile. So if you had the Visa signature card or the Visa, I think it's the Infinite card or something like that, you were able to skip all of the line and go in directly to the concert. Same with T-Mobile if you had the Magenta plan. Once you were inside, people were running to get the Adidas and Bad Bunny collaboration, the new sneakers. I'm talking about a line of 500 people just to get their hands on these sneakers. People were getting any size that they could find, any color. Like, it sold out almost immediately. And again, this is just my journey getting into the concert. I'm not even at my seat yet. There was a collaboration and a partnership with Johnnie Walker where they were giving, I'm telling you, it was like $30 drinks, but it came with a Puerto Rican pava hat. And everywhere you would see the people with the pava hat, and you're like, I need it. Like, I actually need one of those. And I was trying to find it, but the line was like 200 people long. So I went to another bar and some girl had it. And I asked her, I'm like, oh, can I get the pava hat? She's like, it's actually not here, but I'll sell it to you. So she was a hustler.
You know
I did
what?
not
You
buy
know
it from
what's
her. She wanted.
interesting about all of that? It is the I have so many friends that, I mean, I know we all do. So many friends that went to Puerto Rico to go to this concert, and the amount of people who were actually buying all of his collaborative merch prior to wear it to the concert is also crazy. Because I know people
Yeah.
bought the shoes, I know people bought shirts, and they go crazy. I mean, the collaboration is so important because it's just that continued extension, right? So sorry, I didn't, but it's just that,
No,
like, that connection to me was interesting because it to
100%.
see everybody buying it. Yeah.
It was a free for all in there. And
Yeah, no,
like you
I
said, there
mean,
were people that were buying it beforehand and wearing it like head to toe. Like, who's the biggest Bad Bunny fan here? Competition kind of thing.
Yeah.
But honestly, that's not even, again, like, no, without getting inside. Then you got inside, and the setup to the actual concert was a billboard on like a mountain. And before the concert, there were ads running on the billboards, different companies, different brands of like, just, I'm wondering how they were able to get on there, how much that ad space cost. Like, it's a very unique proposition that they were able to have at the concert. And then that's not even touching grass on what happened with Amazon. So it was just, I think Bad Bunny is an
yeah, that's the
incredible
one that was I
example.
thought was super exciting. Yeah.
Carol, how much of those ads were local?
I would say all of them. Again, local to the people and intentional to the people, but worldwide, nationwide brands.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, Agaro, you mentioned Amazon. And I think that to me, first of all, again, super FOMO that I wasn't there because it sounds literally immersive. But then the one that being outside, right? Because I didn't get to attend. The one that stood out to me and that I saw a lot of from a consumer and just as a marketer that got a lot of buzz was Amazon. And mainly just because of obviously the live stream. But then I started hearing, buzz about all the extra elements that that partnership really entailed, even infrastructure in the island. And before we get into that, I wanted to ask you, did they have a presence also at the event, or I guess was their stuff outside in the island and obviously the live stream, or were they also, activating inside?
I'm not gonna lie, I don't think I recall seeing Amazon. I remember seeing a lot of T-Mobile, but I don't think Amazon in itself was very present from my memory. Again, I just could not have remembered it. I noticed them a lot, and they were the talk afterwards when he
No, I mean it's
announced
like
that it was
overload.
live stream. Yeah, but
Yeah.
And I
You
think
know, it's
insane.
go ahead, Ben.
because Fernando, I know you had mentioned something about how the perception of Amazon on the island is not a great one, right?
No, no, right. No, what I said, no, what we were talking about. I just said that what was the benefit for Amazon, right? Like being such a large company, maybe feeling out of touch. Like when people see brands of that magnitude, right? It's really hard for them to communicate or to seem relevant when it comes to community outreach or the way that people view them as just like this entity that works on its own, almost robotic. Like, it's like, who really do you know anybody other than the person that drives, maybe does the delivery to your home, that works at Amazon? Like, so what I said is that for Amazon, it's a great opportunity to build community, to be relevant, to go out and do outreach, also to do a little bit of cross marketing, because I did see that they were getting local products and bringing it out into the global sphere, So yeah, and so and what was good about it is that it was impactful and authentic, and they were really in it, right? So because it's not like it used to be before, and where brands would just put their logo on something, get the visibility, and kind of take credit for something. Like people now, consumers expect more from brands, right? They want you to really participate, to really, if you're going after, like, if you're trying to appeal to a demographic, it has to be genuine, right? So I think that Amazon did a good job, and I know that you kind of touched on that, Hensel, about that compra más or whatnot.
Yeah, no, I think you hit the nail on the head, though. I just like something that you said that actually stuck right now was that, it's so easy for big companies, especially when there's a lot of competitors, to just seem transactional. But I think, what you mentioned is just they're building loyalty, right? Like
Yeah,
sometimes, how do you build loyalty? You just kind of have to embed yourself in the community. And I think you're 100% right with the Compra initiatives
yeah,
outside of the delivery guy, right? That's probably a member of the community, or woman. How do you kind of drive brand loyalty in a space that is so busy and people are getting inundated with almost 5,000 ads a day, right? So I agree. I think it was a pretty awesome
yeah. And I mean,
way to do a partnership.
and the Hispanic demographic, and it's a big one. I mean, the buying power is about $5 trillion. So I mean, it makes sense from a business standpoint.
Hmm.
For them to kind of not just speak to the community there, which I think they did authentically, but also for Hispanics in the United States. I mean, that's where they primarily do business, right? So it's a huge demographic, and I mean, not only Hispanics follow Bad Bunny, but Americans like regular Americans, or I mean, we're all Americans, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I
So
mean, and Bad Bunny's,
yeah,
presence as a whole, right?
yeah,
He's been in movies lately, over the past
yeah,
couple of years. Like his presence has elevated to a point that you have to consider, like, what is really in it for Amazon at this point,
yeah,
or any brand for that
yeah.
matter, that's working with brand partners, and having kind of like that person to carry that brand forward.
Yeah, and I'm sure that internally they must have thought like, oh, is our brand cool? Like, are we doing the? I mean, Bad Bunny is the biggest artist in the world right now, so aligning with him is like, you know, like an easy choice to make if you can get it. Yeah.
You know,
So
he he
from
really
that
had to
sense,
pick
I
a
see
leader
all
when it
the.
comes.
Sorry, go ahead. Here.
No, that I was saying that there were, for sure many platforms that probably pitched themselves to Bad Bunny, and he sat down and said, "Okay, I have the choice here. I have the power here. Who's gonna do the most for Puerto Rico, and who's gonna show up the most for the community?" And I think
Yeah,
him leveraging that really puts into perspective about how intentional things have to be, and how you have to bring more than just like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna live stream your thing and it's all gonna go well." It's more of like, how am I going to show up for your community and your people and your audience?
yeah. I think that's a great point because we always look at it from the side of the brand, but look at the power that the Bad Bunny brand has too, right? He's a brand too, right?
Yeah.
He's a brand
He
that
is.
brings customers not only to himself but to the brands that he worked with, and him leveraging that for the country of Puerto Rico or the state of Puerto Rico, however we want it. It's incredible for him, for the community, for us. So, for anybody who gets to participate in that, it's really something to admire. And at least for him, as and the fact that he did all the concerts there, he drove, I think, something like $200 million worth of uh, economic
Economic
impact to the
activity.
island. I mean, it's a great thing, not just for the brands that participated, but for the island. So I think it's a win-win for everybody.
Mm.
Yeah. I mean, can you imagine though, like, imagine the negotiations that we get into with influencers or athletes or whatever when we're going through that process. Imagine the negotiations that went into that partnership.
Listen, I think it took over a year for them to negotiate this deal. And then you have to think about, Ben, to your point, this can get very meta, right? So you have the Amazon and Bad Bunny partnership, but then you can take that even further and think about, to a degree, the partnerships that Bad Bunny did with all the artists, because he had to coordinate all those guest appearances. And there's obviously a meta to that where you have artist brands with an artist there, and obviously the whole idea for support the island. But I think that brand partnerships does become, if done well, an ecosystem play, right? How do you build a community among brands to brands, brands to creators, and then ultimately to the consumers in a way that is organic and kind of grows? And it's very easy to talk big picture and Bad Bunny and all this money,
Yeah,
but I think those are elements that can be distilled down to any scale in any account, right? Like
Absolutely.
those are just fundamental truths that brands can leverage today.
Yeah. And Gato hit it when she said it has to be intentional, right? Like it has
Mm,
to make sense. And we did that with a partnership that we ran with South Florals and Tua. And how would flowers relate to a football player, the highest paid quarterback right now in the NFL? But how does that relate? And, if it wasn't because of his cultural ties to Hawaii, the fact that they use Leis, that it's a big part of their culture and their tradition, and how they go about bringing that into an everyday game, formulating that partnership wouldn't work. I mean, you couldn't go and do that with Tyreek Hill. You couldn't go and do that with, Aaron Rodgers or anybody else. The reality is that it would only work with somebody like Tua because of that connection. So if it's not intentional and you're not trying to expand upon that, it falls flat.
And then how is that perceived? Like, did we obviously, I'm assuming we saw that positive interaction. Like, I mean, I have to imagine from Tua perspective, he probably loved it, being able to call it to his culture. But did we see that intended reaction on the from South Florals?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we went and there were so many different things that we launched a campaign called It's Game Day, and it was all about the rituals that people go through and how they get ready for the game and what they bring on. And that lei became like that one of part of the
Nice.
ritual, So running that campaign was fun because you're doing this with this athlete who has all of this notoriety and who at the time that you're talking about 3 years ago when he was just entering the league was one of the most talked about. I mean, still most
Yes.
talked about for different reasons, but one of the most talked about quarterbacks at the time with the most potential. And when we launched that, there was a lot of that, and it gave us it gave us direct connection to an audience that maybe South Florals hadn't, been, introduced to yet, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we would go do these tailgates, and they were like the official Tua Leis tailgates, and we would give away
Nice.
a bunch of product on top of merch and a bunch of other stuff. It just continued to expand and amplify, and it became its own community within the community because people wanted to rally around the newest player, the person with the most potential, but also the tie, to the Miami Dolphins. And it just started to kind of encircle itself and encapsulate itself in a way that amplified it more and more and more and made more sense for South Floral. So the impact in the end, like sometimes you don't see it right away, like there's not a direct impact, but the lift that it had in awareness and brand recall for South Florals and the association, that's where the value came in.
Yeah, and I think that why they saw it as such a great opportunity is because just to kind of give you some background on who South Florals is, so you kind of see where the correlation is. It's a chain of floral shops all the way from Palm Beach to Miami Beach. So we're all over. They have shops all over South Florida, but they were struggling with people realizing that all these shops were connected, or they were the same brand, or that they had all these different locations. So obviously, most of I mean, I know that the Dolphins have fans all over the world, but their concentration is here in Miami and in South Florida. So for them, it made sense. The partnership was related to flowers. It was a ritual, and South Florida is a South Florida brand, So it makes sense for them to try to be in the faces of every fan of the Miami Dolphins.
And when it comes to a process like
Yeah, I
that
mean,
from the creative side, I think Hansel, we were about to talk about the same thing. We had like telepathy there.
I was just about to
But
ask you, being our resident creative expert, like, what is that? How does that work? How does that, you know what I mean?
yeah, I think when it comes to the creative side, the basis of all this is being intentional. And I think that's kind of like the theme of this episode, of making sure that everything we do aligns with the target audience, aligns with the person that we're partnering with, and something that can, it's a two-way partnership between the brand and the celebrity and the influencer and the athlete and the movie and the show. It's a two-way street here. So how does this partnership benefit both sides in a way that comes off as genuine and intentional? And in the case of South Florals, his culture here was most intentional, and it was a genuine and very authentic angle to go about all of this, because as we know, in the Hawaiian culture, leis are very, very, very symbolic, and they hold a lot of love and a lot of meaning. And, when people graduate, when there's big milestones, these leis are always part of, all of everything else that you have on. So I think it was important for South Florals to maintain the true meaning of the lei and apply it to Tua, and then basically bring both brands together and elevate that. in the same way. Like we've said before, the same way Bad Bunny is a brand, Tua Leis is a brand. Tua and Leis.
Yeah. One of the things that was interesting about that process is that when we went into talks with them, right, about doing this collaboration, we weren't the only ones talking to them, right? And the reason that, and we had to present our concept, we had to present that we were capable of delivering on our promise because we knew he had a brand that was very well known, and he's also taking care of his brand. So whatever we do on his behalf has to be to the standards of and to the quality that he's expecting because he has a brand that he's protecting just like we are, right? So we had to sit there and we put together a pitch. We spoke to we kind of explained to them our vision, show them like what the campaigns we wanted to do, and they had to buy in, right? So it's like brands also should understand that it's not money isn't the only thing that talks, right? Like vision, capability, quality, results, because they're also lending you their brand, right? So those and we won. We competed against a few other agencies, other shops and things like that, and they bought into the vision that we had.
Yeah, and
And I
I
want
want
to
to
say something here. Oh, after Ben, go ahead.
well, I was going to continue. I think because it's easy to, or it feels easy to have this conversation when we're talking about people like Bad Bunny and Tua, right? But when you start to consider influencers, whether that's micro, mega, major, the reality is that they're brand partners too.
Yeah.
And the way that you utilize them and the way that you bring them into the campaign as a whole should always go beyond just a simple social play or some kind of experiential activation. The reality is that we think cross channel, right? So, you're thinking about how are you using them on email, dedicated landing pages, are they on billboards? We're running TV. You're using their likeness across the entire brand platform, not just one singular channel for one singular moment. If we're going to do an activation in South Beach Wine and Food Festival and, we're doing it with Vicky Bakery and we're going to bring influencers in as part of that experiential activation, why wouldn't we also leverage that on our emails as a recap, on our social channels and showing them their experience there, kind of building our community with their community and kind of merging the two.
Yeah.
And when that's like if you're only living for that one singular moment, then it's not really a brand partnership, and I think
Yeah.
that that's what has to be considered.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, even if you think of it like I guess if people thought of like Flow from Progressive, right, or they thought of like like not to sound mean or whatever, but before Progressive, like that wasn't a character, right, or it wasn't a personality, or it didn't have a thing, and it's even an opportunity for micro influencers, right, to kind of get bigger, to get known, to work with brands that they can bring their personality, the things that's giving them the success. So I think that it's a great point that you make, Ben, that these partnerships should be taken farther than just on the phone, on a social media post or whatnot. There's more opportunity. There's more to get out of them than maybe we think we can or should be.
And honestly, something to also think about from the other side. So we're thinking from the brand side, from the agency side, but from the actual influencer, celebrity, athlete, and creator side, it's very important to be just as intentional with the partnerships that you do and what names you tie yourself to. For example, Sydney Sweeney, like she has possibly partnered with over 12 brands to the point that I see her everywhere, but I can't associate one brand to her. So like she was just an American Eagle. She's done Baskin Robbins. She's done Leis. She's done L'Oreal. She's done Bud Light. And those are just at the top of my head to the point that Fern has said, like, it's not just about the money. It's not just about the money. It's like, oh, either you have kind of a bad manager or you need your coins. But at the end of the day, I just now associate her with the girl who does all the partnerships. So it's very important to
No,
be
yeah. I mean,
intentional.
I would imagine, right, that they have to be looking at their numbers, right? Like these brands are sophisticated. They measure ROI. They measure the impact that those campaigns are having. and people are not just going to keep giving her money if there's no return on investment, you know?
But it
Yeah,
was
but
very
the
back
problem
to
with that is
back.
that I don't know if it has long standing power, right? Like
No, I
it's going to be a
understand that.
short-term play, and
Yeah.
eventually she's going to run out of gas, right?
Yeah.
And then there won't be any cultural tie in there.
There's also the
Yeah.
Right.
dilution of her credibility when she's for
Her
sale. You know what I
image.
mean? Like that's
Yeah.
that's a whole and we see it, right? So, you know, we
Yeah.
use a platform called Hype Auditor,
Mhm.
and we should get royalties for that one. Uh we use this platform called Hype Auditor that gives us that insight, you know, like how often are they doing these brand, you know, mentions, or how often are they tagging ads, you know, in their posts, and that gets taken into account in the cost of what their value should be, right? And you'll
Yep.
see it
Yeah.
dramatically change. The person who's doing that, you know, once per week versus the person who's doing that 3-4 times per week is insane. Like you're talking about a quarter of the price because of all those mentions.
Now, one thing I want to call out real quick that Fern mentioned, which I think is like, I didn't want it to go under the radar, which is flow. And the reason I want to mention the flow thing is because I think it's brilliant that you brought that up, Fern, because I think the same concepts that apply to physical human influencers, I think also apply to made up, I guess influencers or made up spokespeople or characters, because they have to make when even if you're creating them, they have to sound, look, speak to the audience in a way that makes sense. Flow spoke to the consumers in a great way. I think Bad Bunny did something similar with the frog cookie, right? And then El Sapo. But it made sense. You also have to have that deep understanding of who your consumer is.
Right.
Which brings me back to my experience of seeing the podcast or listening to a podcast and what makes it connection. And I kind of want to go around and get you guys' take on, when you have, marketers and brands looking to drive that connection in a world where people are more skeptical because AI, because they see so many ads. What are the key elements when you're looking at these brand partnerships that, like Ben said, you really have to integrate to the entire customer journey to have it be authentic? What are some of the keys that they should be looking out for, that they should be kind of plugging in, that are scalable?
I think more than anything, it's the connection play. Like how is their audience going to connect to this brand based on that relatability point? You know, where is the overlap and where does it make sense? If it doesn't connect, then there's no point in the partnership, in my opinion. You have to make sure. I mean, if you figure that Bad Bunny did this with Brooks Brothers, there's absolutely no connection there. You know, maybe he shops at Brooks Brothers, maybe he wears Brooks Brothers. I know if he probably did a collaboration with Brooks Brothers, it would be over the top and everybody would be wearing Brooks Brothers tomorrow. But right now, that wouldn't connect. That would be a huge play, you know? Now, I think that when you're talking about the customer journey too, I mean, you have to figure the experiential touch point is also a big one for brand partnerships. And when you're not considering like how that connects into the
Mhm.
whole play, there's a big loss there, because we saw it with Tua, and as we started to see now that extension into doing those tailgates and being there physically, and the expectation of being able to walk away with things and be able to tangibly, you know, interact with the brand, it changes the game completely.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I also has to do with the messaging, right, of what you're trying to get across, right, and where you want to reach people, right? Because some people will, depending on the brand or what it is, there's different points of contact, right, where you're going to choose that you want to have that conversation. So I think that also is you have to see where that makes sense for you and your brand partner, and what is the relevance that they have to the platforms or things that they are in, that makes that's relevant to the target you're trying to reach, right? Some people want, like if you're doing something with a brand that's um maybe about losing weight, right? Maybe you're doing something with that particular person YouTube pre-roll when they're trying to plan their workout, and does it make sense with the partner that you have, or is that gonna lend itself for that, right? Or or when, so it just depends. I think it once you identify what stage of your customer journey you're trying to target, what it is that what's the message you're trying to get across, and where's the place you want to meet your consumers at that makes sense, then it's easier for you to make choices of who you want to work with and what the things you have to consider, whether that partnership is going to be effective or not.
Yeah, and I think you guys honestly hit everything in the sense of being intentional, making sure that the audience is aligned is a big one. Whether a podcast or anything really that wants to partner with a certain brand, they have to make sure that that partnership is not going to give a big question mark to the consumer hearing it, because at the end of the day, the consumer and the person on the other end kind of sees it. I kind of see it as like online dating, in the sense of like you're kind of, you're swiping right, you're swiping left, you're kind of seeing what brands there are out there and what you're going to align with. Oh, it's like, oh, this one's interesting. You read more about it. Then you start getting your ads, you start building that online relationship, and then you're going to end up wanting to go on a first date, and you're going to end up wanting to go see this brand in real life. And that's kind of like tying back with Ben and what he said about experiential comes in. Like, how are these brands showing up at different events? How are they showing up in the community? How are they showing up where you show up? So it's like, are we aligned there? And then you're going to end up taking the next step. Are you going to get in a relationship with the brand? Like, it's really, that's how the girly way of seeing the consumer journey. But I think it's an easier analogy for how quickly things can move along when it comes to a brand partnership if the brand does it correctly.
Well, listen, and then if you guys get together, now you're a loyal fan.
Yeah.
But I think that what I'll say is just to kind of preview, I think that we definitely need to dive deeper on experiential, because what I heard from literally all three of you is that experiential kind of brings the conceptual partnership to life in a way that makes it real and tangible. And I think obviously in a world where digital becomes more and more part of life, I think we're seeing that change with consumers. But I think that'll definitely be a deep dive for next episode. So definitely come back for that one. I think that's going to be a really cool one that we can kind of talk about. But guys, if you have any comments, any feedback, please hit us up in the comments. We want to hear what are some brand partnerships that you're excited about, that you've seen, that you thought were masterclass. As always, Kata's Conversations here to kind of help you think a little bit differently and make some amazing changes in your next campaign. Till next time.
One more thing.
Oh, please. P.S.
If you went to the Bad Bunny concert, one of the 30 nights in Puerto Rico, and you got a special guest, let me know who your special guest was, because I went on night 30 and I got no one. So
no.
I don't want to talk about it.
Isn't Bad Bunny pretty special?
Is that not enough for you?
Is that not enough? We're like, man,
listen,
who understands?
I just want to set
it's
my
a Bad Bunny
expectations.
concert.
Yeah,
She's like, hey, I had the time of my life, but also I want a refund. No,
no, I just want to live vicariously.
It's never enough, bro. It's never enough.
Let us know. Let us know who your special guest was. And that's it.
I love it. Till next time, guys.
Bye.
Bye.